Hi, I'm Adam, this is Musing of a Man, and it's time for that Polaroid filter review. So this is what we're talking about, the 4-piece multi-coated filter kit from Polaroid. As I said, I'm using the 52mm version, and in front you can see the 4 lenses laid out in front of us. These are from left to right, fluorescent, CPL, warming and UV. Now, so far I haven't really seen that much difference with the UV and the fluorescent. It doesn't really work too much for me, so I can't really see myself using them two that much. The UV, obviously I'm going to be using it, as I mentioned in my other video, as really just a protector for whatever lens I've got on the camera at the time. But the fluorescent, I'm not really going to see myself using it. So the two I'm really going to be looking at today are the CPL and the warming filter. Now let's have a look at the warming filter first. This is designed to bring out all the orange and the reds and the warm tones from whatever scene you've got and really kind of boost them a little. So this is a picture that I took of a recent sunset sailing back into Portsmouth Harbour. As you can see, you've got a lot of reds in there, you've got some oranges. It's really quite a nice view actually, and you can see quite a bit of detail in the water as well, going all the way up through the reflection of the setting sun. For those photographers out there who like the stats are: it was taken on Nikon D3200 with the 18 to 55mm kit lens. The aperture was f/5.6. The shutter speed was 1/320th of a second. The focal length was at the full 55mm. The ISO was set at 100, no flash, and the format was in RAW. However, what I really want to concentrate on with this is the shutter speed, and on this picture it's 1/320th of a second. Now the reason why I want to look at that is because to get a lot of light into your camera, especially at low light, you're going to have a longer shutter speed. But the one thing I noticed with the warming filter is that you could keep the reds and the oranges in that even if you went for a fast shutter. The reason why I still wanted a fast shutter was to get as much is because I wanted to get as much detail as I could with the water. Now if you go on a slower shutter to bring in more light, all that water kind of smooths over and you don't really get much. So as I said, this was at shutter speed 1/320th of a second. I'd like to go through the shutter speeds now, stepping up the speed each time. Now bear in mind that all this was taken freehand and not on a tripod, so they're not exactly going to be exactly the same, but this was 1/400th of a second, not much of a difference. Moving up, that's 1/500th of a second, 1/640th of a second, 1/800th of a second, 1,000th of a second. You can see it's getting really dark now because the shutter's going so quickly, it's not getting much light, but the reds and the oranges are still staying there. Speed it up again, 1/250th, 1/1600th, 1/2000th of a second, 1/2500th of a second, a 3200th of a second, and a 4000th of a second. As you can see, it's very dark now, but you can still see the orange and the reds in there. Now cycling back, the one I think gets the best of both worlds, you know, enough light there, enough detail, but also enough of the red and the orange, is the 640th. I've selected that one, and to just give you an idea, I then imported this raw image into Lightroom, and you can always play with colors and boost the reds and the oranges, or even the blues or the greens or the yellows, but I boosted these just a little bit and I cropped out the image, and what I came up with from that was this picture. As you can see, okay, there's a little bit of a noise around the top, but what I got from that picture mainly was more detail in the actual water, and then how all the sea reflected that light coming from the setting sun. Okay, it's not the most perfect picture, it is a little bit noisy due to the fact that I've had to crop it in and it was a low light, but in my opinion that is something that's really quite a benefit with the warming lens. I was able to keep those oranges and reds in there, maybe not visibly with the raw image, but once I started tweaking up the reds and the oranges, they really came out. So it's a really big thumbs up for me for the warming lens. Now, moving on to the other lens, which is the CPL, second from the left there, and CPL stands for Circular Polarizing Lens. Now what this does is it negates any reflection in any kind of reflective surfaces, and if I just go into a comparison with this CPL, again this was all taken freehand, no tripod involved, so it's not exactly the same. So this is a picture opposite Victoria Coach Station in London, and here we have Earth Spa, some form of beauty salon, and right next to it we have Smiles Dental Agency or something like that. But as you can see in both these windows, there's quite a lot of reflection. You can see the white van in between the two shops, you can see the reflection of the gentleman coming up. In fact, I'll just grab this mouse. You can see the reflection of this guy in here. And actually with the next picture, this fella is already around here, which is quite good because you can still see where he would have reflected. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and actually show you what happens when you apply the CPL. So the CPL is designed to get rid of reflection. It's not absolutely foolproof. It doesn't get rid of everything. You do have to play around with angles and stuff, but just with this one, have a look. Once I apply the filter, it's taken so much away. Yeah, okay, you can still see the van here, but you can't see it here anymore, and that hadn't moved. As I said, this gentleman's up here now, but if I go back, he would have been about here, and if this guy is reflecting there, this fella over here should have been reflecting about here. So if I leave my mouse there and go next again, you can't see him at all. He's nowhere to be seen. But also what I want to draw your attention to is the glass up here. All the windows here, you can see all the frames in them. You can make out most of the detail with all the window frames. Have a look at the comparison. If I step back again, they're all blown out. Yeah, okay, you can see the wood in the cross, but nothing else, because this was a very, very white, cloudy day. And yeah. So if I put them side by side, go through it again and put them side by side with the before and after, you can really appreciate the ability of this small little lens. And all I've had to do is rotate it slightly through the gradient. If you're not too sure how a CPL works, have a look at the video that's come up on the annotation right there. That's my unboxing, but I also kind of go through exactly how it works. Moving on, obviously there's glass there and that reflects, but it doesn't just stop with glass. I was on my travels, as that last picture would suggest, and I sat down for a coffee in Costa Coffee and I took a picture of my coffee. Thought it'd be nice. But as you can see in this picture, you've got quite a lot of reflection on the top of the coffee there on the surface. But what I hadn't noticed until I applied the CPL is the fact that all this table, because it's wood and varnished and polished, all this is reflecting light. Now when I go to apply the CPL, this reflection does remain somewhat, but I imagine it's a very strong reflection coming into the lens from here. Not too sure why, maybe it's the angle or whichever, but have a look when I flick over. I love this filter. See the difference? Okay, you've still got a little bit of reflection on top of here, but most of this has gone, and most of it, to be honest with you, on here has gone. If I step back, you've got very little detail on the top of that surface. Let's go side by side. Look at the difference between this and this. And that's just with a cheap little filter, part of a pack of 4, and the effect, the difference you can get is phenomenal for me. I'm sure you'll agree, $15.99 for all those 4. That's pretty good. Even if it just came with the CPL and the warming filter, it'd be enough for $15.99. If you haven't seen it already, have a look at the unboxing. Click the annotation right here. Thanks very much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, share the video, and I'll see you again next time.